is, have you thought about doing some mentoring?
I used to have a mentor. Actually, that's how I went from hobby coding to actually getting paid to code. I had a mentor, helped me along the way.
You know, I have done a fair bit of mentoring myself, but always up for a few new tips on how to do it better.
Well, great news for you, because our next speaker is going to do just that. After being a Ruby developer for over 12 years, Sameera Gayan has now moved to looking after developers as an engineering manager. He still likes to get his hands dirty with code and has many unfinished projects.
And here's an opportunity for a speaker sponsor moment. Sameera is here today with the help of Mabel, who have shipped him over here from Sydney and looking after his flights, accommodation and everything else. Thank you very much, Mabel. But of course, we're all wondering, does Sameera pair?
Well, he does, and he has some pairing tips as well.
Ooh, what are they?
Number 1, Junior on the keys. Slow person drives, remember, don't be pushy. That's why I'm always the co-author on the commit when we're pairing. Ouch. You're the one pushing.
Sameera Gayan, mentoring for me or not for me? That is the question.
Cool. Thank you everyone for coming. First off, I need to say a huge thank to Ego because my computer stopped working, so that's his computer now. Who would have thought? So I've been into Ruby conferences in here. I moved to Australia back in 2013, from 2014 to up to 2018. And all of the time I've been on that side of the fence, and this is the first time I'm being in this side of the fence. So it's a bit terrifying, but it's good. Either way, so before the talk, Igor told me that if I do a bad job, his presentation will look better and he'll give me $50. So if this goes well, that's fine. If this doesn't go well, at least I'll get $50. So I'll be talking about mentoring and helping other developers, mostly around developers who are starting new, associate level, graduate level, mid-level. So about me, this is my web handle, so Sameera207, you can find me Twitter, GitHub, all that. I've been a long-time Ruby developer, so I started Rails back in 2008, 2009, and then all the way to 2001. And then I moved to this role as an engineering manager, and in Mabel. So one thing I was fortunate enough with Mabel is when I joined Mabel as a developer, and then for the last 1.5 years, we grew from 15 developers to now 70 plus developers, which means as a company, we got to support developers. We got to get more junior developers, graduate developers, and mentoring and helping them, because our company had the capacity. So I was fortunate enough to be on that journey and learn a few things from that. So before getting into the topic, let me show you what I do when I have free time, and that is what I do. So it's the same order. So the 95% time takes by the little one, the two of us, me and my wife, and then I do four-wheel driving and camping. So if you do camping, come, let's talk. So that's her name is Anara. So I show this slide to her, and then she's delighted. She thinks now I'm going to talk the next half an hour about her. So it'll take some time for her to figure out. So that's all good. Cool. So next is my journey a little bit. So I started coding back in 2005, and from 2005 to 2008, I'll be basically company hopping, 6 months here, 8 months there. So I've been doing Visual Basic, .NET, ASP, Java, PHP, you name it. And even, I don't know how many of you remember, there's a language called Visual Fox Pro. came with the Visual Studio bundle, so I did that as well. But back in 2009, I joined a company, and they said that they're using a new framework. This is, by the way, this is back in Sri Lanka. So I'm originally from Sri Lanka. In 2009, so I joined this company. They said, like, we're doing a framework called Rails. I'm like, I have no idea what Rails is, but I said, yeah, let's do it. So I started doing that, and Ruby and Rails clicked me other than any other language. So I was happy with the language. I think we can see from our community, it's always like we are a very happy community, and the Ruby and the language, everybody, once you get hooked to it, you're not looking for any other language, mostly. So this is in 2008, 2009, and Sri Lankan, like the software industry is mostly based on offshore companies. What happened was back in 2008, 2009, the recession hit, the US recession hit, and then most of the Ruby developers, this handful of Ruby developers were there, but they were also moved back to different other industries, not industries, the languages like .NET and Java. But I decided to stay with Ruby, and that paid off back in 2011 because there was an offshore, there's a US project that they wanted someone with an experienced Ruby developer, and I was one of the handful developers at the time in Sri Lanka. And based on that salary negotiation talk today, so I asked for like almost 3 times of my salary at that time, and they were like happy to pay me. So I'm like, yes. So not only that, so after that I applied for the permanent residency, and then got my permanent residency, started applying for jobs in Australia, and I got a job before I land here. That's, again, thanks to Ruby and the community. And literally, I came on, I think, 28th of April, 2013. Next day, went and opened up the bank account, Medicare and whatnot, and the third day started working. What I'm getting at is, all this was, I'm doing this, I'm doing camping and whatnot, I've got a great family. All of this, because of the community and the help I've gotten so far. So what I wanted to do along the way is, when I slowly started Ruby, getting comfortable with Ruby, is how can I give back to the community? So I tried to do my best. So I've been active in Stack Overflow for some time. I haven't used it, unfortunately, for probably 4 years now. Not that because I know everything, it's just that I don't have time to contribute back. So I've been, so I've started a Ruby meetup back in Sri Lanka, back in the day, and then I've done few talks in Sydney Ruby meetup when I moved here after 2013, and then I've been mentoring in Rails Girls events, and I don't know any of you have been there. So there's an event called Install Fest from a company called Reinteractive. So it's essentially what we do was, you get people in, not IT people, any industry, they bring their laptop in, and we help them to install Ruby and Rails and build a small blog post. That is like their first taste of programming and websites. So there's a one called Install Fest Development Hub, and for the last 2 years, I slowly moved into the management side of things, or the dark side. No, not that manager, this one. So this one. So and being Mabel, as I mentioned before, this one of the things I wanted to move to this role is so that I thought I can help more developers, I can help more people, help the community. So for the last 1.5 to 2 years, we were able to, in Mabel, we were able to do a graduate program. So we hired 4 graduates. They were undergone a 6 months program, 3 months, 3 months of the test project and learning, and 3 months on the squads. And then we started hosting Sydney Ruby Meetup. It was I think last Tuesday. And then we've hosted 2 Rails Girls events so far, and we are looking forward to more. So yeah, so I think my move helped me, as I can see, to give a little bit more than what I was doing as just a developer. With that, so tell me, I forget, teach me, and I remember, and involve me, and I learn, by Benjamin Franklin. So if you want to take anything from this talk today, I want it to be, Benjamin Franklin didn't say this. So it's clearly stated in the Franklin Institute. If you go to that link, say he didn't say that. So with that cleared, let me go back to the actual talk. So the types of mentoring. So there are ways like there's 3 C's and few other concepts. But what I'm more getting here is, so there are mentoring types, like you can do mentoring long-term, structured mentoring. You have a mentee, you have a specific time you meet them, and you have a plan. And then there's another way, I would say ad hoc. It's more of you have someone in your team, maybe you're a senior developer, and then when they have a question, they'll come to you. So there's no specific time, but you're helping them. It's not a one-off help. It's more of you're directing them to the right direction. Or the third one is online help. So it's more of you're going to a forum, and then you're helping, you're answering a question, you're sharing some thoughts. So this talk is more focused on structured and long-term mentoring and helping, but some of the parts you can use, I think you can use in online help as well. So the first thing is be kind. So this is like, if you think about it, it's obvious. So you need to be kind. You don't need to be a jerk about, when you're doing mentoring. If you, so the main thing is you need to make the other person comfortable to come and talk to you on a question. They shouldn't be feeling like, this is a stupid question. If I go and ask this person this, he'll say, this is stupid, why don't you even think about it or something. Even the smallest thing, you need to make them feel comfortable. And with that, I think sometimes we need to careful about the words we use as well. So things like, this is a quick fix. You can get it done really quickly. I think we shouldn't use those words, especially as a senior engineers. We may think it's a quick fix because we can see what to fix. But as someone who's starting new, that's a big thing for them. And if we say it's a quick fix, you can get it done in 5 minutes. We are sometimes adding extra pressure on them. And also, I think it's more of, they might start feeling, I couldn't get it done in 5 minutes, I may be a failure. That's not the case. So I think you need to sort of think from their level and use your wording correctly. And also, I think it leads to a psychologically safe and inclusive environment or workplace, because people would like to work with people who are helping them genuinely. So that's why I think making feel comfortable and kind and empathy takes you a long way. And then the next one I want to talk about is know their style. Because people have different styles, right? So when they start learning, like some people, they want to read documentation before even they start coding. They want to understand what's going on, what's happening, and then they'll start working on things. Whereas people like me, I just open the editor, start coding, and then when I start on something, I'll go read the documentation and sometimes figure out, had I read the documentation before, I could have saved maybe 2 hours. But either way, there's their style. So unless you see they're going in a really wrong direction, I think we shouldn't change their styles. We should try to help their style, to improve their style and learn with their way, because that's probably they're used to. One thing I've learned over the years is maybe sometimes it's good to have a chat with them first. Book a half an hour and go through, like, how do you want me to help you? What sort of a learning you prefer? And also some people like like to go do their own thing, and some people like to need more help. We want to check with them regularly, depending on, so you talk to them, have a chat with them, understand how they want to move forward, and then try to accommodate that, rather than you trying to push your style. That is like in terms of, there's a cognitive diversity. There's a lot of research going on. Cognitive diversity means you bring people in different disciplines and then get their fresh ideas. Sometimes they're much better than yours. So what I've learned from when we go to Install Fest, sometimes they ask questions that we don't have answers for. Like as an engineer, some things we don't start from the bottom, we start from some up, assuming some of the technical level, but some people come there and ask questions, and as senior engineers, we go, we don't know how to explain that. So I think that is an important thing. And the next one is, you don't have to be the superhero, which means if someone is having a problem, if you're mentoring someone, if they're having a problem, don't just sweep in, fix the problem, and just fly out, because they will have no idea what you've done. So take your time, let them figure out the problem, work with them. So, and this is something I mentioned to Michael as well about let them drive. So one of the things in four-wheel driving, when we go four-wheel driving, is when you have a vehicle convoy, like 5-6 vehicles, we go on fire trails, which is no internet connection or no phone connection. So one of the rules is, if you're turning from one fire trail to another fire trail, you have to wait for the next person to see you. So basically, you stay there, and you see the other vehicle is coming behind you, then you move. And then the next vehicle stop there, wait for the previous vehicle. So the idea of that is, that way everybody turns, if you want to turn right, everybody turns right. Everybody knows what the other person is going. The interesting thing with that is, the whole speed of that convoy is defined by the slowest person in the convoy, because you had to wait for that person. Same thing applies for teams. So what we want in teams, even what we are measuring team performance is not the fastest member of the team, but as a whole team, how they can move. So it doesn't matter if you have a super senior engineer getting things done in 1 hour, but if you leave a developer left for weeks to fix things, that's not a good team. So you need to make sure, so the only way we can fix that problem is uplift all the developers and their knowledge, and then make them faster. So it may not as fast as your senior developer wants to run, but we're not leaving anyone behind. So that's very important. Especially around, I think, junior, when someone associate junior level developer joins, that makes them feel welcome, and then they feel they're part of the team. They're not like, I'm just on this ticket for 2 weeks, nobody's helping me, everybody's finishing their tickets. And the other one is, listen. This is something I'm still learning, and I think I'm getting better at it. Again, as a senior developers, typically what happens is, if someone starts explaining things, especially an associate level developer, we make a conclusion saying, this could be the error. We don't hear anything else after that. And then we go by that without even knowing whether it's the right way or not. The problem with that is, the other person he or she was the person who actually had the problem. They probably know better than you what is happening. So you need to always start listening first, and then come up to an actual conclusion based on the problem. And also, if you see a problem, and if you know it's a one-line fix, or if you just run this command, if possible, try to make them lead to that, rather than just giving them the command. Because just giving them the command will get them over that hump, but they might not understand what is the process leading to that. Then The other thing is, if you're doing a debugging session or something, let's say you ask them to run the Rails server, they run the Rails server, and the Rails server fails. Completely different reason, libs are failing or something. At that point, don't try to fix that and switching between windows. Now you're opening Google, now you're opening documentation, try to fix the error. So that way, what I found was sometimes the people you're following, the mentees, they're kind of getting lost because they don't know what you're doing. So the best thing I found was, at that point, you can pause and stop and say, look, there's an error that is not related to what we are fixing now. You have two options. Either you can say, let me fix that error and come back to you, or the other option is, you can say, like, this part is not directly related to what we're doing. So either you can follow this, or you can just completely ignore this part and come back to me. We can get back to the original problem later. And even now, I've got someone I've been working with, and I know that if I'm not listening to them, they goes like, means now I know that I should stop and listen. So there are some clues like that, but generally I would say, like, start listening. That's the best way. Then the mindfulness that's another important thing. Like, for an example, unless your job is mentoring someone, typically you have your own work to do. You have your own deliveries, you have your own deadlines, and then you're helping someone else because you want to do that. But the thing is, when you're doing that, you may get Slack messages, something that you want to reply. And if you want to reply that, if you can not reply that and wait, go for it. If you want to reply that, let them know, like, give me 2 minutes, I need to reply to this message. Because it is a bit disrespectful if someone is telling something to you and you type on Slack. It's not, because what we want to do is, they may not have Ruby experience as you are. However, we need to treat everyone the same. Other than that, everything is same between you two, right? So you shouldn't make them feel small. That's why if you need to get a call, I completely understand, it's Slack message, whatnot, but just let them know, give me a minute, I need to reply to this, and then I'll get back to you. And then tell me, okay, done, let's go. So that way, we don't disrespect their time, because their time is as valuable as yours. And about time, so try allocating some time. If this is like a more structured mentoring session, normally you would have a time, like Wednesday, 2 o'clock or something, and you would follow that time. But even, let's say, if you don't have a time, and if someone asks you, hey, can you have a quick chat, or can you have a pairing session, you can say them, okay, let's do a time, set up a time, calendar time or something. Then that way, other people know that your time is booked if they check your calendar, so they don't double book you. And the other thing is, if you're busy, let them know you're busy. Because with most people, like all of us are working remote now, we don't see whether the other person is busy or not. They might asking, hey, this code is not working. And then don't just Google something and get the first 3 links and send to them without even reading them. Because they trust you and use those links and read it, right? And if you're not sure about the path you're sending them, they might end up in a different rabbit hole. So if you don't have time, just send a message saying, look, I don't have time. I'm on a meeting. No, don't say I don't have time. That's a bit rude. Still say, I'm in a meeting. Can I get back to you in half an hour? Some sort of an ETA. And the next one is set some goals and plans. So this is where we want to make sure that the people, the developers we are working with, they feel that they're progressing in their career. So the best way to get that feeling is you see you're achieving milestones. So to do that, I think, like for an example, in my case, I've got my direct reports, we set goals. That's more formal way, but even in informal type, if you have someone that you're working with, you can set some goals up for the 3 months, 6 months. Say, for an example, in Mabel, we've got a huge spec suite, and then we want to refactor some of those because some specs are small. And we created a separate project. We've got a list of slower specs, and anybody can come and pick those specs up and then refactor it. And some people put it as a goal, like in 1 month time, I will be refactoring 1 spec. It's a small, achievable goal. Because if you put it as learning R spec, it's like a more broader topic. How do you measure that? So if you put like, I will be doing 1 spec per month, it looks small, but once you've done a spec, they've achieved that goal. They see they're progressing. Or you're doing a ticket without anyone's help, 3-point ticket in 2 months' time, something like that. Something that you both agree. Don't just go and put goals on them without even asking. Just talk it out, have a way of what both of you are comfortable with. The next most important thing, once you set the goals, is celebrate wins. So as a senior developers, or if you're in some sort of senior developer or above, normally you do big releases, people know you, you get the recognition, right? So even there are bugs, you'll be the first person to go and fix it, and people say, he was coming here and fixed the bug and whatnot. But typically, associate-level developers or graduate or mid-level developers, they are always behind the scene, and then they don't visible as probably much as you, especially in a bigger corporations. So what we want to make sure is to make sure that they are also feel valued and celebrated. So that could be something like they've done their first spec, or you've seen they've done a PR and then they have used a more elegant Ruby method than they were using before. The small things, because for them, small things are also big wins for them. Rather than for us, it's more of, if a senior developer fixing a memory leak or something, it's a big win. But for someone who's starting, writing a spec, getting it passing for the first time, that's a big win for them. So we need to celebrate wins. Again, coming back to the point of thinking from their level, we need to make sure that we celebrate the wins, even the smallest ones. And the next one is creating a help network. So this is important, I think, because that way they get more people to work with. Because otherwise, you kind of become in the bottleneck. If they have a question, and then if you're on holidays or if you don't have time, they're kind of blocked. They don't know what to do. The approach I've seen working so far, at least for us, is when someone comes in as a mid-level or associate-level developer, we would have a buddy for them. And after slowly, once they're comfortable, we will slowly get them to have more people, and then they can ask the questions in more broader channels. It doesn't mean that you should restrict asking them. It's by all means, if they want to go to the main Slack channel of engineering or something you have, they can ask questions. But typically what happens is, if you put them on a channel like that, I mean, they will be in the channels, but sometimes if they ask a question, then there'll be like 5-6 people giving different sort of answers, and they might get confused. So one thing you can do is create a Slack channel or something that you have these new developers and hand-picked developers that you can think that help, and then slowly transitioning them to the wider audience. So we did this when we did our graduate program. So we've got 4 graduates, and each of those graduates had a buddy and a mentor. So the buddies is like a more of a less experienced developer, and a mentor is more a senior developer. So that way they were more comfortable. They would go to those 2 people initially to ask questions, and then after like about a month in, they were very comfortable with everyone in the engineering team. So those are the main points I've got. And the next one is, what is in return? So I think the main thing in return is self-satisfaction. So you see people starting without not knowing much about Ruby or any programming language, and then you work with them, and then you see them growing in their careers, and that's a good feeling. And also, I think, as I initially mentioned about my story, like we are here, and we are having these conferences, we are enjoying our life, and it's good to give back to the community however you can. So, and also, as an engineering manager, I've been doing a lot of hiring, and one major thing we are looking at is how good the person is. Nothing to do with the tech. Like, we need good tech people, but plus, as much as it's a tech skills are important, we want them to be good people in the team. Otherwise, no point just getting the best tech person if he's not a good team player. And then if that's the case, I'll probably get the $20 subscription for ChatGPT and just use ChatGPT. So yeah, so that is. And then the other thing is, I think when you work with people and they have the appreciation towards you, and then you'll get a nice community. You'll make good friends. And then you go somewhere, you'll see friends, you talk to them. It's a nice feeling. And last one is, again, going back to the topic, mentoring, for me or not for me, I definitely say yes, give it a try. And to see someone who just started in, when someone just started, they know nothing, and then you work with them, and then when they start correcting you, which is happening to me now, it's a really good feeling. Like sometimes I'd say, this is how you do it, and then say, no, this is a new version, this is how you do it. And I'll go, yeah, that makes sense. It's a much better solution than I propose. So it's a very good feeling. Thank you very much.